Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the blog farmhouseonboone.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite items for breakfast this spring. The days are getting longer, it's getting warmer outside, and I am definitely enjoying bringing some of that into the kitchen, whether it be from some fresher ingredients. So many eggs. That is what is highlighted on the spring breakfast menu because we have chickens, and when the light is a little longer, they are in full force. Right now I'm separating egg yolks and egg whites because I want to show you, before I get into some of the meals, my favorite coffee drink that I have been enjoying so much. My friend Stephanie from Hopewell Heights introduced me to this marshmallow recipe. She has it over on her blog. Essentially, you're going to get 6 to 8 egg whites and whip them. And meanwhile, about 1/3 cup of water and 2 scoops of this Perfect Supplements gelatin. To that, add, I believe it's about 1/2 cup of maple syrup, some salt and vanilla. And that's creating the part of the recipe that will thicken up the egg whites. Now, these don't taste like regular marshmallows, but honestly, they're better in coffee because they dissolve, and also you know that they're healthy. And I really like having these yolky coffees, but it leaves you with a lot of egg whites that up until now I didn't really know what to do with. Our egg beater attachment here is very broken, so it's loud, but I've ordered a new one. So hopefully it'll be here soon because it keeps popping back out. You incorporate into the egg whites with stiff peaks the gelatin and maple syrup mixture, and then put it into a pan, put it in the fridge, and allow it to cool until it is nice and hard. Now, after about a day or two, the marshmallows don't look as pretty as they do the first day, but they still taste just as delicious. So I just use them in my coffee drinks throughout the week. Nobody else in my family really eats much of them. They're not that delicious on their own, but in this particular coffee drink, they're so good. So I get a shot of espresso going. If you don't have an espresso machine, you can do strong brewed coffee. You could even just do regular coffee because I do add a milk component. So if you want to dilute it down with coffee, that works too. I used to make this a different way and it was a lot more steps. Now I just put everything directly into a pot. Instead of using a little steamer attachment over on my espresso machine, I just do it all right here. So I'm heating up a scoop of collagen peptides, an egg yolk, half cream, half milk, some maple syrup to taste. Sometimes I throw in a little bit of salt, but the marshmallows also have salt, so I get that sweet and salty component there. Then I blend it up. I like to blend it up a little bit before heating it and then heating it slowly so that way the egg yolk doesn't cook. I get it nice and frothy. I add a marshmallow. Now I cut that marshmallow into fourths. Sometimes I just put it all the way in there. It just soaks up the coffee, sort of dissolves as you drink it. It has protein because of the egg yolk and the egg white. It is just so good. Next, I'm going to show you how I make my sourdough pitas. I love making these because they are easy and they are going to be a great staple in the summer as the garden vegetables become more abundant. And you can stuff them as well as some cheese, maybe some meats into these pita pockets, take them for a day at the creek. I'm really just already dreaming about summer and all the things we can make. Now today I got these started because I wanted to show it for this video in the morning and just left it at room temperature so I could get these done in the afternoon. But if you are making them for breakfast, you'll want to get this going before bed. You can also get them going in the afternoon, pop them in the refrigerator, allow them to rise, 12, 16 hours, whatever it may be, in the refrigerator for that really slow rise. Or just right before bed, mixing it up. If it's going to be about 8 hours or so at room temperature, that's perfect too. I am adding to my mixer a 1/2 cup of active sourdough starter, 1 cup of water, a 1/2 cup of freshly milled whole wheat flour, 2 cups all-purpose flour, a tablespoon sugar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and a teaspoon of salt. And just kneading that until it is nice and smooth and glossy. You can see when a dough is ready how it'll feel. It won't feel as sticky. It shouldn't really stick to your hands. It should be glossy. it should pass the window pane test, where when you pull it apart with your fingers, it doesn't easily break. You can almost see through it. You can pull it so nicely. I am going to oil up a bowl here. Sometimes I transfer things out of my mixing bowl because I know I want to use it for something else that day. It's okay to let sourdough things rise in a stainless steel mixing bowl. They totally rise. I do it all the time. But today I thought I might need it because it's just in the middle of the day and I do use it quite a bit. So I'm putting it in a different bowl, and then unless I'm leaving something overnight where I can't constantly re-wet a tea towel, I use the wet tea towel method to keep the dough from drying out very, very often. The thing is that the tea towel does dry out, but if it's during the day, you're monitoring it, you can continue to get it wet. That just saturates the tea towel and keeps air from getting in there. So it really works to keep a smooth dough. If you're having trouble with your doughs drying out on the top, try getting your tea towel wet. You can also use a beeswax wrap, which the beeswax almost acts like the water in that it keeps the air from getting through the porous parts of the tea towel, or you can use aluminum foil. I use any of those depending on what will work. If it's during the day, I use the wet tea towel method almost all the time. I also like that I can lay it on top of something that's rising flat and it won't really compress it because it's a lightweight tea towel. I always use something really lightweight and damp. After allowing this to rise for several hours until doubled in a warm place, I divided the pitas into 8. I'm just gonna allow them to rest for about 15 minutes to relax the gluten so that they're easier to roll out. Next, I will roll them out on a lightly floured surface until they are about 6 to 7 inches in diameter. And then the next couple steps is what makes this ever so slightly different from flatbread or sourdough tortillas. I'm going to put them in a warm spot to rise a little bit. So instead of just cooking them right away and cooking them on the stovetop, I'm gonna let them get nice and puffy for about an hour. Then I put them on a preheated pizza stone, or you can do a cast iron skillet if you don't have a pizza stone, something that retains its heat, because you want these to cook fast and you want the steam to puff them up. So I preheated the stone at 500 degrees, placed them on it, and then baked them really hot, 500 degrees for about 5 minutes. This is what makes them soft and puffy. The air inside of them makes them just really easy to stuff. We actually had these recently with pulled pork and cheese and arugula. It was so good. And again, I'm just dreaming about them for summer, because if you have a fed sourdough starter, if you feed it before bed, you can get them mixed up the next day, and then in the afternoon, cook them up really quick and fill them with something for maybe a night hike or picnic, or if you have sports games or something to go to. You can shift that timing a bit or use the refrigerator to your advantage to make it to where they're ready for breakfast time or ready for a picnic lunch. For this particular breakfast idea, I'm showing it with scrambled eggs, cheese, salami, and arugula. And I ate this right afterwards. It was just so good and so easy. I love how easily these puff up. If you want the printable recipe, head over to farmhouseonmoon.com, search pitas. And for all of you who enjoy my recipes, it would help me out so much if you leave a rating. So if you scroll down or click jump to recipe, and then in the little star, just click the star, and then you can press submit. You don't have to put any of your details. It'll still record the rating, and I would really appreciate that. All right, the next thing I'm going to share with you is a sourdough coffee cake. I am making this long fermented. So the night before I want to make the cake, I'm adding the flour, the sourdough starter, the milk, water, and eggs to a bowl, giving it a stir, and then allowing that to ferment. The goal isn't necessarily to get it bubbly. You don't really necessarily need that because there also is baking soda that will provide some rise. The goal is just to get those long fermentation benefits in this portion of the sourdough coffee cake. Now, of course, there is going to be some other flour in the crumb topping and the cinnamon filling, but for the large majority of the cake, it'll have the benefits of being fermented, which is a traditional practice that makes grains more digestible. Oh, earlier I said coconut oil. I used butter. You can use butter, coconut oil, avocado oil. They all work very similar in this recipe. The next day, This mixture does get bubbly because of the result of the sourdough starter sitting in it. Also gives the cake a unique, distinct flavor that you can only get with sourdough. Now you can make this coffee cake without making it long fermented because, again, there is that additional leavening agent of the baking soda. So that's just really up to your preference, or if you've planned ahead, or if you are sensitive to the gluten that is in this all-purpose flour. The rest of the cake, the other components that have flour, I am using einkorn so that it's an ancient grain. I always say if you can't sour it or ferment it, make sure to use something ancient. It's easier on the digestive system. It's really great when you can do both. Now, the next day, to the cake portion, I am adding in the sugar, brown sugar, vanilla, salt, and baking soda, and then just incorporating it. The way that I have you add the ingredients, if you aren't long fermenting it, is a little bit easier to incorporate. But if you want the long fermentation, you really need to put in the components that are liquids so that it can hydrate the flour, including the sourdough starter. Sometimes that makes it a little bit difficult to incorporate, but you can get it done. You can use a mixer. I just did it by hand. And then for the cinnamon filling, I'm doing a half a cup of brown sugar, a cup of einkorn flour, and 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. I spread half of the cake mixture into a 9x13 pan, put the filling in the middle with the cinnamon and the einkorn and the brown sugar, and then the rest of the cake mixture on top of that. It's a little bit difficult to spread it out to the edges without disturbing that center portion, but it is possible. I just sort of pull from the middle to the outside edges until it is completely covered. For the crumb topping, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, a cup and a half of einkorn flour, and a half a cup of melted butter. That just goes right on top, and then bake it in a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. Puff pancakes can't not be on my spring breakfast menu. Can't not. That means it has to be. It is something I rely on all the time because I have it memorized. It uses up so many eggs. I always double this recipe, which means I do 3 cups of einkorn flour, a dozen eggs, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a splash of vanilla, a dash of salt. I don't measure those, but there are measurements if you want them over on the blog. 2 cups of milk, and I like to blend it with my immersion blender. I am such a user of my immersion blender. Whenever something you usually would use maybe a whisk for, I find that immersion blender is like the best possible whisk. So I'm just using it all the time, and the one that I have, it removes from the top, so it makes it really easy to clean. I never have to worry about the cord or anything. I just pop that off, throw it in the sink, and it's as much to wash as a whisk, but with just getting it incorporated so much better. This makes it really fast. What I like about puff pancakes, and I have a sourdough version over on the blog, and then I also have this einkorn version, is you don't have to stand at the stove and flip pancakes. You pour them in, put them in the oven, and then while you are changing the kids into their day clothes or doing chores or whatever other morning tasks, swapping out laundry that you might have, I know there are plenty. Even if you don't, maybe you could just sit there and drink coffee. You can just be sitting there while these are getting puffed up. I forgot to mention that I put butter in a skillet. Now, On my recipe on the blog, and I need to change this, it says that I use a stick of butter. Whenever I'm doubling this, I don't like to use that much butter because I go through it too fast whenever we have so many eggs and I'm making puff pancakes every day. That'd be 2 sticks of butter a day. That's just too much and I can get away with less. And then I also, on the blog post, preheat them in the oven. I find it just as easy to preheat on the stove. It's really fast. And then I pour it in and then pop it in the oven. So the rest of that's the same. Now for my spring twist, I am using whipped cream. That's spring because our cow's about to calve and we're gonna have so much cream. And then fruit, spring, summer. Of course, it's not actually fruit season yet, but you can get frozen fruit. And I'm gonna be making this whenever it is fruit time. So this just feels fresh and delicious. I love how puffy these are. They're like a little vessel for holding the fruit, the whipped cream, the sprinkling of powdered sugar. Everyone in our family was very pleased to have this special version. Normally it's just a puff pancake with syrup. Today it's a little bit elevated. Currently my favorite bread recipe is the no-knead loaf. I have it memorized. It's fast. I don't have to think about it. And the variation of that is to add golden raisins. We're just really into this right now. Every time I make bread, I just add raisins to it. It is just so good, whether it's with soup or with eggs. It might not seem like something that'd be really good with eggs, but the way the raisins caramelize when you toast them with a bit of butter, it adds a sweetness that is just really delightful. I love it. I'm adding raisins almost all the time now, and I'm sure I'll get sick of it, but I get on these kicks, and this is my current kick. So this is the no-knead loaf with golden raisins added during the second or third stretch and fold before the bulk ferment, and then the rest of the recipe is the exact same. Now for today's breakfast menu, I'm gonna show you what I had 3 times the other day. So the other day, a stomach bug made its way through my entire family. They were all sick on the exact same day, except for me and one of my kids. So I have 7 kids. 6 kids and my husband were all sick on the exact same day. I wasn't. Now, lest you think I escaped it, I did indeed get it about 3 days later than them, which was nice because I could take care of them that day. And I knew there was no way I was escaping because how could I be that lucky when 7 of 9 got it? Now, my daughter, the one, still did not get it. So I don't know if I should be waiting or if we just are in the clear now. It's been a little while. So I think maybe we're in the clear. But the other day when I was the only one eating food, when I'm the only one eating food, I almost always rely on eggs because I don't make something big with meat and the protein source is really easy to come by. Whenever it's eggs, I had a loaf of this raisin sourdough bread. And so I made it the exact same way as I'm showing you right now 3 times. I had this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2 eggs, perfectly cooked with the yolk, maybe slightly runny, but not overly runny. Sourdough raisin bread toasted in some butter, a little bit of additional butter on top of that with some orange juice. This is a good one. You have to try this. This is a really good breakfast. I'm doing the voiceovers for this video today, and I actually had this again this morning. So this has become a staple for me. All right, well, I hope that you enjoyed some of this springtime breakfast inspiration. As always, if you are brand new to my channel, please hit that subscribe. I make a new video every week on food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by our farmhouse.